It's a great day. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower. Our mission is to inspire. And our mission at the end of the day is to provide you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. And on this episode, we have the one and only Dr. Elizabeth Power. She's in the building, and she'll be talking about leading from the inside out. Hello, Dr. Power. How are you doing?
Hello, Dr. Shay. I'm not no doctor. If I wanted to be Dr. Power, I would have changed my first name, darling. But I appreciate the respect. I really do.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You
After
are
all, you kind
amazing.
of go, what's the point? You get to a certain point in life, you go, I've done the research, I've done this, I've got the master's degree. Do I really want to be a doctor or anything? Nah, not me.
I get it. I understand that. Well, let me ask a question. I know we're getting to your background and who you are and how famous you are in a minute, but there are a number of folks that are watching and saying, "Man, leading from the inside out, Shay. What does that mean? Like, what does it look like to lead from the inside out? We're all human beings. So can you take a moment and kind of frame the conversation for the audience? And what does
Sure.
leading from the inside
Sure.
out really mean to business owners that are watching today?"
It means that I think, first of all, being an entrepreneur is an involuntary plunge into therapy, no matter how you cut it. You have to learn yourself. You have to learn what are my barriers, what are my blessings, what are my bridges to success, and where am I stepping on my own feet. And all too often, we can't tolerate the discomfort of looking at ourselves, and so we kind of pop off a little, or say things without thinking through the consequences. And not only do we end up sometimes looking foolish, we sound foolish, because the inside job is what we've got to master first before it can get to the outside to be who we really want it to be. It's alignment.
I like it. It's an alignment. And I'm curious, and again, we'll get into your background in a moment, your backstory, but how does that function with AI? I mean, AI is a real thing today, and we're going to be leading from the inside out. And if someone's like, "Man, I just got to lead like from the inside out," they could go to AI, and AI can say, "Hey, here's exactly how you should lead from the inside out." So my question, here's really the question. It's not really an AI question, but it's more of a, why are people struggling today to lead from the inside out when they have all the tools and resources they need to make it happen? Like, what's holding them back?
Because there's a disconnect between the external tools. That is to say, I can sit here and I can go to Claude or Perplexity or Gemini or any tool I want to, and I can get it to tell me information it has assembled from a large language model. What it doesn't do is it doesn't call on the human wisdom. And the human wisdom is really where knowing yourself comes from. It means knowing, for example, that I really need, when I'm talking to my sister who has a whole different world perspective than I do, that when we're talking, for example, as we were today about somebody's obituary, that I'm looking at it from one perspective while she's looking at it from another perspective, and the conflict is appropriate at that point. But if I can look at that as a flag that growth is trying to occur, then I'll get more out of it. And in fact, I did. I discovered that she was looking at it from the perspective of being the widow of a longtime pastor in that denomination, and I'm looking at it from being a longtime congregant with that person in a different congregation. And so she's thinking about all the politics and all the stuff that goes on in pastoring and all the people there and what this church did and how that congregation did and why did they end up joining the Episcopal Church and leaving the Lutheran Church. And I'm just going, he was my friend. He was my friend, and I really loved him.
I like
So
that, by the way.
I wanted to beat her up. I wanted to give her a hard time about not listening to me and about being in conflict and about not paying attention. And I thought to myself, and AI can't do this for me. What is it that I might not know that if I did know would change how I think about how my sister's looking at this?
I promise, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into her background. She's going to tell you how famous she is in a minute. But I'm curious, what are some early warning signs that you talked about being in alignment that leaders can see to kind of understand that they're kind of burning out or they're wearing down? Are there any signs that they see, any symptoms, anything they should look for?
Yeah, there are so many. One is the tendency to pop off without thinking. to let your mouth get overloaded by your emotions. The second is the need to fix everything at once, all at once. The third is the inability to recognize your workload and whether or not the popcorn you're doing and the going back and forth you're doing are helping or hurting your productivity. Looking at patterns in absenteeism and presenteeism are important. For me as a leader, the most important thing I have to do is pay attention to myself. Where am I faltering? Where am I finding myself doing things that I don't ordinarily do if my life is more unbalanced? Where am I living out of fear instead of out of confidence? We're stressed out of, instead of blessed. I mean, we could go through, but you know what? We've got a couple of assessments that will help people take a look at that online. We'll give you the link to when we get done. Free, no cost, and doesn't hurt anybody to do anything. But there are an awful lot, and they range from the psychological fogginess and the mental emotional distress and the gut problems because we're too tied up in knots to the musculoskeletal things that make our back and our shoulders and our neck hurt, even when our ergonomics are good. That kind of stuff.
Wow. As you were saying that, I'm curious. This is good stuff, by the way. Let's slow down for a moment because you've gave us good two frameworks, how to know we're in alignment. You talked about leading from the inside. Take a moment for folks that don't know you, as famous as you are. What's your backstory? You know the question, what's your backstory? What's the background? And more importantly, what was that defining moment that led you to say, you know what, I'm going to help leaders become better leaders by working on the inside first?
Wow. It's a big story. I moved to Nashville, Tennessee in 1979 as a cobbler, and I repaired the shoes of musicians and glitterati for 2.5 years until the shop closed. I mean, I put rattlesnake toes on Alabama's boots, and I put the red tab back on Dolly Parton's boots that are in Gatlinburg, and Al Gore and Oprah Winfrey and other people. And then I went to work for what we used to call the Public Welfare Department, and I was written up after 14 months for being overproductive. And the first thing that I learned, because I quit after that, was that I'm not cut out to be an employee. My mind works in too many different ways, in too big a ways, to really do that work and be successful at it. And I didn't realize that you could get in trouble for being as overqualified or as highly qualified as you could for being underqualified. That being overproductive was as bad as being underproductive because it busts the curve. That's the bottom line. A second defining moment, that was the defining moment that I stepped out of the comfort zone and began to go for being an entrepreneur. As I have had to wrestle with myself and my own shortcomings and flaws and failings, I couldn't read numbers till I was in my 60s. I'm not much past that now, but it was still a real shock to realize how much that had hurt me. And that inability has almost caused me to bankrupt myself a couple of times. It has caused me to be homeless a time or two, plus the issues and the results of being overwhelmed a lot in early childhood, things that made me think I might die or lose my mind or be badly injured along the way, things that don't have perpetrators, and realizing it's not about who the perpetrators were or weren't or whether there were or weren't any. It's just real simple. If you're spending your life living under the shadow of being so overwhelmed you think you might die or lose your mind or be badly injured, the outside is running you more than your inside. And when that happens, you are a puppet to everything that would colonize you in any way.
Thanks for being so transparent and so open with us, by the way. Thank you. You know, you talk about a topic called quiet cracking. And for the audience and myself, define what that is and why should entrepreneurs pay particular attention to it?
Well, I'll tell you, it's pretty easy. Back probably 25, 30 years ago, we used to talk about people who quit and stayed at work. They might have a job offer somewhere else that they could go to anytime, or they might have some kind of cushion or something some kind of cushion to fall on if things got tough. And as times have changed and the economy has changed, the job market is now the worst it's been in 30 some odd years. And so for those of us who are entrepreneurs, we're seeing two things. One is that our colleagues who are still in corporate environments or who are employees are facing a situation where they may not have a job to go to when they decide to leave. They may not be able to get one easy. If you are older, if you are a woman, if you are singularly focused in one area, the job opportunities may not really be there. And so we stay hunkered down and we do this and we get lower and lower and lower into our desk and we find ourselves getting tighter and tighter in little wads and we are suffering. We are suffering because we don't feel like we have a way out. And that suffering that we experience in quiet cracking, where we are, nobody can really see it because we have to keep our profiles low enough to be able to stay in the environment. And yet we are in a lot of pain. And it's not necessarily the kind of pain that therapy or the EAP is going to help with. What it often represents is that we just didn't learn some of the skills that we might have needed to learn growing up to be sturdy enough to stand in the face of this and be unbreakably alive.
I love it, by the way. And as you're speaking now, there are a number of folks who are watching that says, Shay, I like what Elizabeth Power is saying, but does she have advice for me? Because, Shay, I'm responsible for a team. So, yeah, I got to lead from the inside out. But, how can I, as a business owner, create a healthy environment for my team and use these practices so it's not just me, but I can transfer that on to other folks? I know that's a loaded question because some folks are very experienced. Some of you work for nonprofits, some of you work in government agencies, some of you are entrepreneurs. But I'm going to ask Elizabeth Power if she could do her best to kind of frame it and talk about how you can have culture after you've got yourself taken care of. What's one or two ideas they can use to transfer it over to their team so they build an environment?
Well, the first thing is that the kingdom, the work culture, always emanates from the king. What king or queen, boss, it doesn't matter to me. Whoever the top leader is the one driving the culture, and so are the leaders immediately below that person. If you look at your organization honestly from the outside, from what you know about how people feel about working for you, the average tenure on your employees or your contract staff, if the work is ongoing, if you find that that's slipping, the first thing I would encourage you to do is to stop and say, if I were looking for a job, would I want to work here? Would I want to work here? And if the answer is yes, I would ask you to then think about what makes it such that I would want to work here. Are ideas valued? Are they truly valued? Do we treat people with equal, not intent? Do we take things personally? Do we have favorites that we pick? Do we have people that we really don't like and wish weren't here? What are the performance indicators? But looking at what does it look like to someone outside your organization? Are you having an operational crisis? Are you having a creative crisis? Are you developing a toxic culture because maybe a leader is overwhelmed and is relying on things that aren't particularly helpful or maybe even healthful that they're doing at work? I've worked in organizations where we've had leaders who spent all day online gambling. I've had worked with organizations where leaders didn't show up, where leaders took too much responsibility and suffocated the staff below them. So you want to have someone help you, and I do mean have someone help you look to see, how does our culture look to other people? What do they see? The second thing is in terms of your teams, I've discovered a great thing later in life, and that is that being quiet is a remarkable tool. That when you say something and go quiet so that you can think about, what did I just hear? What might I not know that if I did know would make me think about this differently? Makes you look wise. And you want to look wise. Looking wise is a very good tool when you're working on leadership from the inside out. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, are you willing to let your team struggle? And what is the point at which you're going to help them out? Because if they struggle too much, they'll lose their motivation.
Right.
And if you're going to help them out, how can you help them out in a way that honors their efforts and helps them grow? And that means a different communication pattern. That means, wow, you guys have done a great job with this so far. I can tell we might be slipping on quality or budget or schedule issues. So let's take a look together at how we might solve this. Now, unless you run a completely vertical, top-down organization, that kind of involvement where the team recognizes that you are collaborating with them instead of taking power over them is automatically helpful. It's going to call on some leaders to do something different. How many times does a person who might be less enfranchised bring up a really great idea, but only when the higher ups adopt it and call it theirs is it given credit? When you give credit where credit is just due to the people who actually come up with the idea, who put the idea in place for work on, when you nurture them so that they can fail forward because yes comes after no, then you're making sure that your team has got the ability to succeed and thrive in an environment where some failure is necessary. But your job as a leader is to make sure that, first of all, it's not too expensive for you and it's not too expensive for your staff.
I love it, by the way. One of the things that we talk about a lot, and you're talking about leading from within, is how do folks release? I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm not on the counseling chair here, but Shay Brown, by the way, had a hard time as an entrepreneur because there were folks I had to lead who were, we call them contractors. Some of y'all might call them 1099s. They weren't, quote unquote, I guess, W-2 employees. I know that means nothing to some of you. But in English, it's how does Shay as a leader or others as a leader, at what point do you feel comfortable giving tasks to other folks that at one point I used to feel like if I didn't do it, I'm sure I'm the only one who thought this, it ain't getting done the way I needed to get done. And it took some. So what advice, and here's the question directly, what advice would you have to folks that have a hard time releasing things and trusting other folks? Does that make sense? I know, again, very loaded question.
It makes
You
perfect
still got to
sense.
lead.
If they're not going to do it the way I want it done, then why would I have them do it? And here's what's true about these 1099 contractors. If you set the right tone with the person you're hiring on the front end, saying, look, my work, as a 1099 person, I can't tell you how to do it, but I can tell you what the criteria it needs to meet to be successful when it's done. When it's done, it needs to do this and this and this and this, and it's going to have to interact with that and that and that, and it can't tear those things up. It requires that as a leader, you do a much better job describing for your 1099 workers who are not employees but who are contractors, what does it mean to succeed on this job? And that means doing it on the front end. I'm guilty. I've hired people who are, I'm a contractor, I'm going to do what I want, when I need to get it done. I'm going to say, and I'm an employee, I'm a supplier, and I need you to do things on the schedule we agreed to because my business is not going to be run by your schedule. So if you want to work and make sure that we can meet the schedule and the demand, and that means enough communication that when it's starting to slip on your end because something else is slipped, I have time to recover. Don't leave me hanging out here in the wind. If you leave me hanging in the wind, we ain't going to work together. If you're going to be 3 months late, we're not going to work together. If you're going to do the work and get the done work to the criteria for success so that I can pay you, then we'll work. And I think part of that is paying for performance, but it really requires that those of us who want to do everything ourselves because we know how to do it, nobody else does, that we look at what is the outcome and what are the interfaces and how do we set somebody up to succeed, that we might be able to pay $9, $10 an hour in certain countries so that they actually get the work done and we can use it again later.
What do you enjoy most about what you're doing these days? Sorry, I may cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay, no, it's all right. What I enjoy the most about what I'm doing these days is helping people move from feeling stuck and frightened to recognizing that no matter what happens next, the potential they have in them is so great that when they begin to work on 3 particular things that we know make such a difference to build sturdy enough internal lives that they can do the external stuff, I love seeing the aha in people's eyes when they get it. Whether I'm coaching, whether I'm doing a workshop, whether I'm giving a speech, whether I'm doing organizational consulting, I love that aha when people get it.
The big aha moment. And I'm going to take you back in time when you talk about the big aha moment, because one of the questions I like to ask when we have a few minutes, we got a few minutes now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice maybe you've ever been given that you want to share with the audience? And I'll frame it for the audience so they're clear that you've had many, many mentors, I'm sure, along this journey of life, maybe more than you can remember these days. You read more books than I'm sure you can remember these days. You sat through more videos and more seminars than you can remember. But if you had to step back and say, Shay, I've been given a lot of advice in this journey of life, but here's one piece of advice I've been given that I want to share with the audience that was given to me that I'm going to just pass on to the audience. What would it be and why?
It would be, don't take things so personally. And the reason that's the most important advice that I've been given or that I can give is this story. I'm driving down the road in my car, 7:30 in the morning. I'm at Drummond Drive. Some guy tries to run me off the road, and I blister the paint off the inside of my car. And I have so many unkind things to say about that person. It's not even funny. But what it means, what it requires of me to hold that particular position is this. So that means that that guy, whoever he is in his red Mustang, got up that morning at 6 o'clock and decided 7:45 he was going to be at Drummond Drive, and he was going to see Elizabeth Power in her Subaru Crosstrek. I'm sure it's the only thing I can see out of. And he was going to run me off the road. Seriously, what's
Yeah.
wrong with that thinking? And number one, he doesn't know me from Adam's house cat. Number two, I don't know if he just poured hot coffee in his lap. And number three, the real question is, do I do that? Do you do that, Shay? Do you wake up in the morning and think, ooh, 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 at 2:30, I'm going to be on interstate whatever, and I'm going to run so and so off the road?
No.
How crazy, how irrational is that thinking? And so if I don't do it, why do I think they do it? And how does it help me when I do think they do it deliberately? That sequence is one of the most powerful sequences I've ever discovered. Because, for example, when my sister and I help take care of her, or when my colleagues and I get crossways and we're going at it, I stop and I remind myself, do I think they really woke up this morning and thought about that to get at me? And if I do think about that, what does it say about me? Where do I need power or control or reduced risk or increased safety or choice in this setting that I'm not giving myself credit for? Because when I get that far, then I know what to ask for next. Then if somebody says to me, well, I didn't mean it that way, and I'm just, I can come back and say, oh, I'm so sorry. I think we have different contexts. Let's see if we can explore that, because I think we're probably in closer agreement than we think we are. Instead of continuing to hammer on them when they don't need to be hammered on, and neither do I.
I love it, by the way. I love it. What does success look like for you these days? We're not out saving the world, helping people lead from the inside out. When you're not out speaking and a lot of things you're doing these days. What does success look like for you for where you are right now in your life? And what does it feel like?
Wow. I can tell you what it feels like first. It feels like those
Sure.
moments of contentment where I know that I am enough and that striving, and I know that striving is not the solution at this point in my life. That I can look busy and I can be busy and I may not be making any movement at all. It looks like slowing down enough so that I can listen between the words when I'm coaching or when I'm training or when I'm speaking. I can listen to the feel of the room or the energy of the words or what people are actually saying, and I can respond in a way that totally honors their presence, that honors the fact that no matter what people have been through, we're all truly doing the best we can. Only 2% of us ever wake up and decide not to do the best we can. The rest of us are just bumping along trying to make it. And so success for me helps it's realizing I'm already there. I'm making it. I could always stand different things operationally. I could always do things better. But as far as I've come, I have that far to go again, and here is pretty good. It looks like going out and watching the honeybees that drink at the cattle tank where I grow lotus root. It means noticing that the tomatoes are setting. It means picking a big old juicy onion out of the garden and having it on a sandwich. It means seeing the stray cat that comes around and eats here periodically and recognizing that that creature serves a purpose in my life that keeps me connected to all kinds of things. It means knowing that there are people who love what I do and who want to be part of it because they see the power it brings in their personal life, the same power it's given me. And the
Yeah.
model, by the way, is used on every continent except Antarctica.
Yeah. You're,
How's
you're
that
having a
for?
lot of fun.
I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Having a lot of fun. And that's evident throughout this whole conversation, by the way. And I know you can go on and on. As we come down the home stretch, really a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients is your firm looking to work with these days, if any? Because I know you have an assessment. And number two, where can people go? You mentioned earlier there was an assessment. Maybe there's a website. Like, what can they do to stay in this conversation, learn how they can lead? Please share all that details with the audience.
I'd be glad to. The first place that people can go is you can pop me an email at Elizabeth at the-tia.org, Elizabeth at the-tia.org, and say, hey, I saw you on the Happy Entrepreneur and I'd like to know more. That's the first thing you can do. You can go to elizabethpower.com, and that will take you on a tour through everything I'm doing, However, just be aware I'm getting ready to shift it real soon. If you go out to Amazon to look me up, you better disambiguate me because I'm not Elizabeth Power, the romance novelist in the UK. And I'm not the one that works for the Secretary of State in Mexico. I'm the Elizabeth Power in Nashville, Tennessee at elizabethpower.com or at elizabeth@the-tia.org.
And give the website one more time.
the-tia.org and elizabethpower.com.
Well, let me say two things. I know I'll get a chance to connect with you soon. I know you're part of the Dare2Lead Differently. I know you're doing a lot of cool things that are out there. So I can't wait to have eye-to-eye contact with you. You're amazing, by the way.
We're going to have so much fun.
Yeah, we are. I can't wait. With that being said, thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. Can't wait to get a chance to connect with you in person one day soon.
Thanks so much, Shay. I can't wait to see you. And thank you to all those of you who listen. Keep being happy. Get happier. Fool the doctors. It's the best thing you can do.
Amen. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it. I never get tired of reminding you because you have a lot of choices and you choose to be with us. And we don't take that lightly. So thank you so much. Without you, we don't have a show. Make it a great day, everyone. And we'll make some good things how we connect again next time. God bless. And y'all keep doing God's work. We out. Peace, everybody.
Amen.
Bye-bye.